last game for today in the grassy patches of Erangel. Let's get in to game number 2.
Give me more. I want all of what's been happening inside these games so far, as it has been an absolute feast to watch these games.
Dude, the circles, again, I know we keep talking about it, but all event have just been absolutely wild. The shifts, I mean, even circles that we look at normally that tend to lean towards, you know, like a more central position, even those shifts have been just something ridiculous. And so a lot of these teams, we've been seeing some of the best minds, though, adapt to these in ways that, you know, have been most impressive.
Looking out is, I'm not even going to make any comments about where circles can go, because Lord only knows at the stage anymore. I do want to say, though, that following up what you're talking about, navigating the circles, I think, has been a big thing for it. With the amount of hardships that we've had come into play, edge play has been very, very difficult to play, just because it feels like you want to take a fight against one squad on the edge and pick up a couple points. It feels good. When it's like 8, like in that last game, you just can't really survive the meat grinder in a way that you can go on to win the game after.
And that problem is exacerbated by the fact that a lot of the teams here do prefer to play edge, right? And so when you have so many of those teams stack up on a specific edge, especially with the way that the shifts have been going and putting teams that don't even like to play edge in that position. Oh no, look at this, Matt.
Oh,
777 is back for more, and he doesn't get the vehicle, but he does find himself inside, and this, good, get behind a tree. Unfortunately, the UAZ does not have a great turning radius, so he'll be able to survive for now. But the problem now becomes is the rest of 17 is probably going to loot and try to send someone over here.
I mean, just essentially whip out the red cape, right, and just do a little bit of.
Oh, he backed him into it. This is bad, though. I mean, we laugh, but this is the second time a member of the Expendables has thrown away a life this early. I mean, I understand how important vehicles are, but it's not worth a player dying 2 games in a row.
I'm kind of surprised he left the safety of the tree at that stage.
Well, he had to, because he knew that the other members of 17, specifically like Sha Wu, came here with a weapon that he didn't have long. So, I mean, 2 games in a row, I would really hope that 777 actually just backs off.
You can have it. They're learning the lesson that I believe that many have learned about don't go to Pachinki until
just get away from 17 early.
Yeah, they are very, very selfish. This is mine. This is also mine. This other location, also mine.
Also good pivots, though, from 17 to like recognize that, right? Yeah. And try to punish, and not only try, they've punished now the Expendables twice. As we look at the circle, so this is going to be centered up on Ruins. We've seen quite a few of these so far. Obviously, Everest will be in for a team like Genji, who already sent EJ to the top, getting a lot of vision as well as a lot of control as far as what's happening there on the northwest side. And then all the other teams already pretty comfortable in this. We see Question Mark, the winners of the last game on the west coast as well. No surprise there. So yeah, this one can be quite troublesome, though, especially when we start getting those shifts towards the center of Ruins, Matt, because we also have Gatka Fields in, which is very open.
I mean, we saw yesterday, Sunken City became a firefight location very early.
It did.
But that might not be the case this time around, given the fact that the circle is a bit more to the south. That said, it's still a very strong position inside the compound. It just feels a bit more defendable than what can kind of happen inside of Ruins. It's one of the reasons why a lot of these teams like to go into it. And the pathing options out of it with those northern roads feel a lot better.
You say that, though, as if we didn't see a circle completely shift into that, what was it Toby called it, the Bermuda section there, the bridge between Watertown and Cube. This could go north, right? It wouldn't even surprise me at this point if it went all the way north. So a lot of these teams obviously centering up below Ruins. There's quite a bit to play in that area, especially like that nice L area that you see 755 in. We'll see.
I'd almost be more surprised if it didn't go north at this stage.
Same.
If I was an IG, I'd almost go, okay, what is the absolute worst thing that can happen?
Let's plan for it.
Let's just go ahead and start. Let's assume that that's our plan 1, and then our plan 2 is if the worst doesn't happen.
But even looking at some of the teams on the southeast side, right? Like, so looking at FaZe, looking at a team like Cerberus, which, by the way, when we're looking at their player cams, we're still laughing and carrying on, which is a good sign. I don't think it's not them not taking it seriously, but I think it's them realizing, look, guys, we've had some really bad games. Fortunately, we do have quite a few games to still get some points, and especially with how strong they know they are, I like that they've not completely dejected and they still have, you know, looks like they're having some fun, but I do hope they start bringing it together quite soon because they can't let too many games slip through their fingers.
You did not want to go and look in the player cams of those guys and then be hyper serious, not talking to each other, anything else like that. That is one of the worst signs.
From experience, that's not the play. I tell you that right now as a former player. That is, having your team and that mindset can be basically the end of your tournament before you even get there.
We do see a 2-2 split come out from Na'Vi. They're holding down Potato itself, as well as getting a foothold down in that Pachinki line. Most of our teams not having too much worried about inside this rotation. Daniel holding down a ridiculously wide, Rajak, Yasnaya, and then east of Yasnaya, 1-1-2.
Salute was coming in, yeah. So, I mean, they loot Yaz, and in this lobby, fortunately, they don't have to contest, or they didn't have to contest the 4 AM very much, and so, yeah, they have quite a bit of that open. Obviously, you see Sol in Razak by himself, feeding all that information back to the team. So their rotation, as you said, is going to be very carefree as we now look at the Sonics as well, coming on the south side of this, just to the south of Pachinki Hill.
I also want to point out, both, if you mind, Game PT, as well as Forest, very scouty in their rotations this time around. I don't know why. Why would they be so scouty?
Would possibly, it's not that they were embroiled in a fight for 4 circles last time, right?
No, not
definitely
in the
can
slightest.
be, especially because both of those teams are aware of their drops, right? So they know there's going to be someone pretty close. As we look at T5 as well, getting a nice central position here, even going to send it to Ruins proper here, as we see Path and Pong just having a little bit of troubles with Audacia. Driving in this area is not easy, so I'm not going to judge him at all.
I mean, it's called Badlands for a reason, right? It's just, if you kind of go over there, you expect to catch some airtime. Specifically, if you got pedal to the metal.
And it's not the good airtime either.
No, it's that scary, like the hood's being faced straight at the ground and expect to, like, I don't know, do a couple of 360s kind of.
The amount of times I flipped a vehicle in that area, I'm not super pleased to share, but it has happened.
There's nothing better than a tire getting popped right as you're cresting the hill, right?
There really is nothing better than that. It's the best feeling ever.
It is.
Zhao Panda 4AM are starting to come to the circle a little as well, and they're going to be on the south. They actually might benefit from this rotation, especially if this does hard shift to the south. They'll have a lot more to play, and they'll have some easier decisions to make on their rotation. Is Question Mark really the only team not in this one, with Falcons as well coming in late from Novo, as well as Melta Power.
The amount of time that Falcons has kind of hung out on this one, I wouldn't be surprised if we're probably seeing an emergency pickup coming from them. QM might be similar, but they're so close to the circle. Like, the meta for when to use an emergency pickup for different teams is still kind of developing. I think that they're so close at this, just don't yet, right? Do you think it's better to use it earlier and maybe jump into a safer environment where everybody's not as compacted? Or hold it for, oh my God, we have got to get somewhere, and then try to use it then?
I think around Circle 3 or Circle 4 is probably the most ideal time, because remember, when you use an emergency pickup, you essentially throw away the ability to use vehicles.
Right.
You won't have vehicles, and so coming into a circle this early, especially with the way that we've been seeing shifts go, is it's not the best decision. I feel like it has trapped some teams as well. We've seen some teams win off it. Tyloo, obviously T5, 2 teams that have used them pretty much in Circle 1 and 2 and found themselves in a position to win the game, but we've also seen it, been to the detriment of some of these teams using it too early. So I feel like somewhere midpoint of the game, when you start to see that, hey, these rotations are going to be much more difficult than we want them to be, I think that's where the emergency pickup will really come into play.
Question Mark making their rotation into the zone. They're not going to have anybody really near them. The closest team's going to be, Chopsticks and Sonics. Tickleton is moving more into the north, and Jin G running this very wide split from Everest down in to get some sight lines onto Ruins. I think that that's going to be Sonics exploiting that, just kind of creeping a bit closer in. Yeah, they're going to go ahead and get this control point. And getting this early, I think, is just a scouting point, because if they commit into this, this is a peculiar stage to decide to stay here.
Especially with Question Mark now starting to come in right behind them, right? So they should be able to scout this, as Phil First is going to get on the roof. He's going to try to get as much information as he can, specifically looking at Gaka proper. But yeah, that split coming out from Sonics, beneficial, but also problematic if they are crashed, right? So we do see Mime there on the bottom side, Shrimsy as well split on the top side of that, just to the east of Gatka. And those nice yellows, we've seen quite a few fights there and quite a few circles kind of favor that position. So I am worried about consolidation for Sonics, but we'll see what happens.
This is a prime example of what I'm talking about the change in meta and moving from a much more edge, scrap, team fight kind of situation into a, no, we're playing geometry, we're going in, we're getting center, we're going to get those territories early, because the teams that are fighting, like, and trying to go for some edge combat in some fashion, in the later stages, have to walk into the thick of this, where there's still like 14 teams stacked up in a gauntlet waiting to pick you apart as you drive in.
But also look at the strength of the teams in this lobby. Like, regionally, we see edge play is obviously a lot more popular, and it does tend to work out more because the level of play, and I'm not putting any region down, it happens in NA, EMEA, everywhere, APAC. you are going to have some teams that aren't going to be able to hold those edges as effectively. So if you are one of the stronger teams, you can kind of come in, start rolling the edge, take control, and then really start to dictate the pace of the game from where you're playing. It's really hard to do that when you're going against, let's say you run into Gen G on the edge, and then right after you have to run into FaZe, and then right after you have to run into 17 or Danawa, right? So like, it's just armor as well as, you know, ammo, utility is not going to survive multiple team fights on the edge that much, really, when you look at a lobby this strong.
See, Na'Vi was kind of stretching their legs out a bit and do bump into Cerberus. Center
Ooh, I like this.
circle. Just going to be pretty friendly for everybody that was playing Center a second ago.
Baby.
I know. Get some Sunken City
I don't
in
even
here.
remember the last time we went
still got
Ruins.
all
Or yeah, even like the Sunken City, Venice, whatever you want to call it. It's Pachinki. Pachinki is actually going to be very interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because of how many teams have stacked up and basically bet that it's probably going to go this way. Rotating out of that now is going to be somewhat difficult. FaZe will probably wrap somewhere or take their time, but 17, specifically even Na'Vi, are in a position to gatekeep the north side of Pachinki.
This is like, I don't know.
As I say that, Mel is completely alone.
This is a taste of the entirety of PUBG. What we've got Rajak, we've got School, we've got Everest, a bit of everything that you could want. Mel is going to get spun out by Tycon. That's no surprise given the amount of Cerberus players that were just on top of him. And so now they're going to be playing down to the southeastern area. Closest team to them is going to be Twisted Minds, but that's going to be about it. Falcon's going to have to make their rotation, and Question Mark going to have to collapse in a bit, but that's kind of all that's going on with it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Question Mark is going to have that chopstick area. So we did see Sonics consolidate early, and I really like the position they've taken to hold here. The only problem for them really is going to be Gen G in the west.
Forrest decides that they were going to move more into that Rajak line, and Danawa says, no, we're going to go ahead and own this one up. Forrest now going to have to play backs up against the blue zone as Anonix down in School, and the rest of the members playing that very strong hillside. And if Danawa can hold this, this is a feature point with a ton of information.
Yeah, this is a really strong position in the circle because they can pretty much see all the way into Sunken City on top of some of the waves surrounding that area. So their rotation should be fairly uncontested, especially if they clear out the teams behind them, being Forest and then maybe Cerberus if they're going to go for a wrap, because otherwise they'd have to run pretty much into Twisted. As we now look at a nice rotation as well coming out from Game PT as they come from the northwest, and they're going to come on the bottom side of Everest, but they will have to contend with a few members of Gen G as they're also going to be able to see that there's a team driving up the hill.
Yeah, and that is also going to distract them just a bit. I'll allow more movement or question mark on that lower area to the south. We can also see Falcons, they're trying to break their way into this 4 Angry Men line, but it is a very wide hold, and this was expected. 4 Angry Men in this position that they're playing, they were exploiting people trying to drive across this fields, and they were wanting to pick up some kill points off of it, but you got to kind of give it good on Falcons for navigating and at least getting away.
Yeah, they do get away, but here's my issue with Falcons, Matt, and here's my problem with them, right? It's currently sitting at 15th place, right? What did we just talk about? The edge. Falcons have been coming in late almost every single circle, and it has not been working for them, right? Because they've been running into a lot of these teams who are also having issues with rotations, or they're just running into teams that want to hold that edge, and coming in this late, again, with the strength of this lobby, it's just not been working out for the Falcons so far.
And this is how Sonics lost.
It's also not working out for Sonics, yeah.
They have regrouped, so they do manage to get the rest of the way through. Did come at a cost of Mime. And they're also going to be pretty close to T5, who's navigated the circle and Ruins in a, yet again, strong position. You got to give it to them. You read the circles, you play the circles, and that's what they do.
It's also crazy that we have a 3-way tie for first right now between Sonics, Danawa, and Question Mark, and then only 4 points behind is then Na'Vi, and 1 point is T5. This has been such a tight race grand finals so far. It's been wonderful, Matt. This is some of the best PUBG we have ever seen.
Okay, what can we do? Falcons now, they've got to the hillside. They're now harassing 4 Angry Men, who are just going to go ahead and send down into the ditch itself, waiting for the circle to pop. And we are going Pachinki side. It's still keeping the Badlands in. And we're also going to keep a bit of Sunken City, a bit of Ruins. But let's be honest, look at the way everybody's moving.
The problem, though, is the amount of space, Matt, that was just cut off from so many of the teams, specifically in the Northwest, as they're going to have to make rotations now into Ruins, into Badlands. Question Mark actually got a free window on the side of Pachinki Hill, which still blows my mind.
And here we go. Forest trying to make sure that they can cement in. They have a pathing into the church, and they're going to be able to get a Question Mark. Going ahead, hopping into the vehicles. They're going to be moving into that southern Pachinki hillside. Falcons trying to use the opportunity and the covering fire that has been presented to send it in, while at the same time, it's going to be the Expendables rolling right by 4 Angry Men, who we saw just have a couple shots hit them from Falcons a moment ago. And that is going to lead into a drop-off. And yes, TE just jumps right down into the thick, but this feels like nobody's going to come out of this one clean. HSMM also going to have to move over. At least you've managed to get away from the Pachinki hillsides, but TE just sent it in desperation, and it do be like that.
Sometimes it do be. I was actually remember we're talking about FaZe. I was a little worried about them rotating out of Pachinki because of the way this might have shifted north, but no, they're actually now in a great position to capitalize as they heard the fight between 4AM and the Expendables, and they are going to try to get every point out of that one as Gustav will find the flush.
If you mind, seems like they're going to be set into this dip just on the outside of Church itself. 17 Gaming going to be harassing that for now. Gen G did see that pathing. They wanted to take that. They're going to retreat away. They're going to move more into that northern line. That means that Sonic could spot them out a moment ago. Tai Lu also still holding down those compounds just south of Ruins, Yellows, whatever you want to call them, the ones that overlook the
They're
Badlands.
still Yellows to me.
We all know them, but Sonic's going to be getting kept out there, and this is very intriguing to look at. The impact is now question mark on the edge of the zone. Sonic's on the edge of the zone. Danawa, the only team in our three-way tie that has a compound, and they're still kind of edge-based.
Yeah, they're still edge, but again, they don't have to do much, Matt. They're pretty much chilling on the east side. I am looking at that, what you were talking about, the fight between maybe the Sonics and Gen G, as Gen G has a wide split looking at two different positions, maybe going through Sonics. Also eyeing the position that we see question mark on is that Southwest Hill is really good because of the fact that they can hide from all the action in Pachinki and clear the west side.
So we've got the fields that are going to be east of Pachinki. Nobody's going to be playing. That's a no man's land. Badlands is a no man's land. We also kind of have the fields to the south and this western area around Pachinki that are also nobody's wanting to go into just due to the hillside and what could happen in that. So this is a very unplayable circle in a lot of areas. If you look at the hillside still being in play, really negate out a lot of areas you want to move into.
Yeah, even that like spine just to the south of Pathampong, it does split waves a little bit, but the problem is Tai Lu has an angle on that on the west, and then Twisted Minds has an angle on it on the east. So as you said, a lot of the central position here that we have in the circle is pretty much unplayable as we now head to the shift, but T5 again, not surprisingly, in a great position to capitalize from the north. That, however, is not great for them.
Yeah, this is going to lead into some bad games for a couple of teams, as skirmishing along the Badlands going to be pretty rough. Also, due to the way that the train is kind of lined up, that's why we've seen such commitment into Pachinki at the stage. If you're wondering, hey, why are there so many teams in Pachinki at Circle 4? Well, it's just making the best of a bad situation. Cerberus look like they're going to be wrapping in. They might have their eyes set on that line. Most of our teams already playing much more centered inside of Pachinki itself, leading into the strengths that provides. Cerberus might find some paths. The question mark, though, isn't going to find the easiest of paths, as it's going to be PO getting the knock onto a doozy to kick this one off.
Remember, Gen G was actually so far split north and south, kind of eyeing as well the Sonics. They did find a knock on the question mark. I don't know if they'll be able to recover a doozy. He's so far out, so actually, I don't know. It might be possible, but Gen G still have a big problem in Tai Lu now coming from the north side.
Yeah, and this has just led to a...
They will go for a doozy.
Nobody really wants to commit in just too much weight quite yet. Now, finally, PO turning around, taking care of what's going on. The Longs opens up the opportunity to go for question mark, and question mark might have just put themselves in a trapped position.
They might have.
With PO now coming back into this angle, he might be able to harass them and move just a bit closer. Beneficiaries of this are going to be Sonics, though, who managed to move into the north and get away from it all.
Yeah, Sonics were able to actually kind of get behind the position there of Tai Lu, so they might hear this fight and start to find their window of opportunity to start pushing in, but Gen G playing with a lot of confidence here, going back and forth between the fight of question mark and Tai Lu, and it's now starting to cost them a little bit, but Pio is relentless. He'll find another one in a trade onto question mark, but best of luck will find Taman.
Pio moved into this position aggressively, now having to deal with Shin. 755 that are coming up back behind him. He's going to go down. EJ, the last one up for his squad, seeing if maybe he can get a knockback onto a doozy again, but this has just come apart for anything that Gen G was trying to set up. This Tai Lu reposition just coming in is just going to demolish.
Yep, and that is it. And this is, again, what I was worried about when it comes to Gen G. They were trying to bite off a little bit more than they can chew, trying to fight two teams at once. It looked good momentarily, but eventually it was going to come all crashing down as Tai Lu now on the backside will start to look for a position here. They find a little bit of a foothold on the north side of the road, which will give them an angle to be safe for now.
And don't forget that Tai Lu has to play the lower side of this hill because it's going to be 17 Gaming that gets some vision in. A couple of our Pachinki teams also have some sight lines. So now Tai Lu is having to shift back into the north in the exact same area that Sonics are going to be trying to come in from, because Sonics have been held back by what's going on with T5.
Yep. T5 actually, again, that angle from Rossadin, who has been so good for T5, and now starting to dictate a little bit of the rotation there for Sonics, but they're going to find Zhao Yang. And look, Twisted Minds now will try to extend their control in the east as they're going to shred members of Danawa in that rotation.
Comes at a cost of 1, but Danawa does manage to at least get past the lineup that we can see coming from Twisted Minds. Meanwhile, let's pop back over to this. Tickleton is going to go down. Tai Lu just trying to defend this one up. Question mark, here's this firefight, and they're moving in aggressively. T5 actually taking some shots into what's going on with question mark coming in. Tai Lu is going to go down, but that doesn't help out Sonic. Still caught outside, and the blue is they've just replaced one team that they wanted to deal with 2 teams that are now going to gatekeep them.
Yeah, on top of that, question mark looking so good. Phil First has been such an effective and impactful fragger on the field. 6 kills. QM really slow rolling this into perfection. The way that they've been playing has been astoundingly good.
I mean, what do you even do in a situation like this? Shrimsy, the last one up. He's just a couple of meters away from question mark. T5 now moved into a gatekeeping position, just waiting to see what's all going to happen in the movement. Question mark leaning into much more of a wolf pack strategy, and that could be a problem as we do see the nade come out. Ends up a bit short. Shrimsy is at least going to get one. Tries to go for more. He's going to go down. Sonic's going to eliminate it, and now question mark going to get control at the top of the leaderboard with both Sonics and Danawa out.
Their problem, though, Matt, again, is T5. Theraton has been slowly pushing there from the north to the west side, and they realize that question mark now has to come in on this edge, and so they're going to try to hold that one out as Na'Vi now putting a little bit of pressure on FaZe in the center of the city, but they should be able to recover that knock. As Pachinki is getting very crowded here, Matt.
Oh yeah, it's about to go down. We got 4 angry men. We've got Falcons, Na'Vi, Cerberus you saw just a moment ago. Let's not forget about Forest holding down Church. If you mind, going to be just to the north of them. 17 Gaming going to be playing the Barns that are just to the west of it. Meanwhile, our other 3 teams just kind of hunkering into the north. You can see T5 trying to figure out how they're going to deal with a very just, you can't call them aggressive, just a very solid, clean firefighting question mark right now.
They've been aggressive when they need to, and they've also realized when they need to pull back. And so the decision-making coming out from T5, again, has been awesome to watch. And so as they now slowly back off, actually, they're giving question mark a lot of room here. In fact, they're going to find a foothold in the circle.
And so that's going to force T5 play into the north. They do have to be careful as now they've set up the potential of a crossfire situation for themselves. Twisted Minds are taking some pot shots at him, but QM getting control over this position. They had their eyes set very firmly into what was going on with T5. 17 wanted to try to exploit that, send a couple of members over there, and the fight didn't ever really break out in the way that 17 wanted question mark and T5 to fight. So instead, this has just moved more into a defensive line.
17 now, though, on that defensive line you were talking about, Matt. We'll be able to find some angles here and pretty much hold away question mark from the south. And so they're going to be stuck on the north side dealing with T5, who we were just talking about. And even GP trying to spread out a little bit as you see Bobsing ahead, slowly starting to cross towards that that hill on the road so that he can get angles on both 17 as well as QM, even T5.
We've got 40 players alive in this circle, and that should give a testament to the skill.
This cuts out Pachinki. Sorry to interrupt you, Matt. Yeah. This is going to be a bloodbath, and it kind of does.
Yeah. All right, so now what do we do as Church becomes center, and everybody's going to start setting their eyes, trying to avoid out the hillsides of what that could present. Cerberus in a good gatekeeping position. 4 angry men, though, have to contend with the fact that they've got Falcons right up on top of them. FaZe in a very strong defended position, just waiting to catch out whatever's going to be happening with the remnants of Pachinki limping their way into their sight line.
Well, it's not even the remnants of Pachinki, even though you are right. It's also the north side, Matt. All these teams are going to have to rotate into the north, and there's really not that much space to play. There is a little bit of a pocket here just to the east of where Hella is from GP that Twisted Minds might be able to slip in, but the problem for them then becomes Na'Vi.
If Na'Vi can get in clean, as I think that Na'Vi is going to take that one first. They're going to go ahead and move in just to the north of FaZe's position. Question mark, though, you can see they want to move, but they've got T5 that's next to them. They've got Twisted Minds. Yeah. This is just a game of chicken. Whoever moves first going to be the one that loses. And in this situation, it looks like it's going to have to be T5. They're mobilizing, hopping the vehicles. Where's the cover? What do? You've got to get the vehicles into position, but look at how much damage he's taking just trying to get a foothold for his team.
But this is so smart smart from Twisted. They realize that there's not much to play, and although they can exist on the north side, they need to make sure they're the last team in, and so they're going to harass T5 as much as they can, cripple them as much as they can, so that when they do come in the circle, there's pretty much no one else to contest on the north. Meanwhile, the fight in Pachinki is starting to heat up as we see Na'Vi trying to cross, but they're going to eat a knock there as well.
QM also having the exact same idea, Twisted Minds. This is our moment to push into what's going on with T5, and T5 just in absolute ruins. Now, yeah, I know ruins to the north of where they're at, but they're in a ruined position because you can see smoke's already down. Two squads that realize we can't go into the circle until you're dead. And unfortunately, that's going to mean the fact that T5 does not have much more life that they can breathe.
Yeah, all these teams in the north, as I think you said it, playing chicken basically to see who was going to go first. And so T5 was the one that went first. Now Nate's utility coming their way.
If you mind.
But also if you mind, and even QM now starting to get in this fight as QM goes for the knock and Phil is going to fall.
We can see the fact that if you mind wanted to go for gatekeep, they heard the firefight up here. They weren't expecting so many strong squads to be holding down this line. Question mark just stops them in their tracks. And so with that, if you mind, Game PT is going to have to deal with 17 Gaming now coming in from the south, just down below them. Question mark already put a finish to whatever's going on over there. T5 though now has to deal with a very close range Twisted Minds that's just rolling right up on top of him. A doozy does manage to spot out this third on 5 is going to go down, but now the continued firefight, it's not done yet. It's going to be Question mark versus Twisted Minds.
And 13 kills the side of Question mark as they finally start to fall. The pressure from Twisted just too much as they've been fighting team after team after team on the north edge, and they've still managed to get 13 kills, and they're not even done. Dante and Bestlock will still be alive, but now I look at 17 as they're starting to come into this.
This is a big problem for Question mark. They need to finish off this fight really quickly. Nade's now starting to come in. This is all that you could potentially want for 17. They've got the high ground looking right down into this bowl. While this is happening, Na'Vi though is sweeping in on the opposing front. They're looking at a Twisted Mind. They want to do the same thing.
And they know if they get rid of Twisted, they have so much more area to play, and so they will push out, but Uba will get knocked from 17, and now all these angles actually opening up on this fight. Twisted have found a reprieve.
Everybody having the exact same idea. If I could be the one to win the North, I can have some control. The problem with it is we're at what, 6 teams having the exact same idea right now. Hush trying to get some shots into the backside. What's going on with Na'Vi, but it's not going to matter. Just that last little bit of pickup coming up with Spyro finishes them out, and K, Twisted Minds, you win the North, but 17 Gaming has your gate kept.
And the dangerous thing about that is the reason Na'Vi went for that North shift is because this shift pushed them out. There's nothing to hold in the East, especially with Falcons, especially with FaZe already on that south side. We also see now that Cerberus has been fairly quiet, but they're in a foothold position right below the church to start capitalizing on some of these fights happening.
Bro, we had a Pachinki firefights that were going down. It wasn't even the most important thing that was happening inside the circle, nor the coolest. With this 4 angry men using smokes, now trying to make their way out of it, but you can see crossfires galore. Cerberus got themselves a foothold in. Falcons just to the north. Man. This is absolutely popping off over here. So much smoke down right now as DraftKings is going to spot out the line that 4Aim's going from. Oh, is that a Pants Pals? Oh, go get it.
No, it's just a nade. So 4AM will fall. Falcons, though, find themselves with 4 members here and the ability to make a massive impact on the circle. If they can just get rid of Gustav, one of the last members, Capitan, will find it. And now they are somewhat safe for the time being, but they still have to deal with Cerberus as well as Forest.
And it's going to be Falcons starting to find more strength to be played from. Let's not forget, we still have Hush alive, or If You Mind looking into Twisted Minds, trying to get some vengeance as 17 is making a harassing push into him. If You Mind is finally going to get spotted out. They're going to go down. Falcon's going to shift down to the south. Cerberus now moving into the sight lines of 17 Gaming. And those 2 members from Forest, remember that moved in here really early because they had some trouble?
Yeah.
They are still just hunkered down and daring somebody to come into this church.
I don't even remember the last time a circle ended at Pachinki Church. Dude, of all places. Yeah. The terrain around that is really fun to play, but not with this many teams and this many players still alive, as 17 has really taken their time to clear out the circle, and they are been really solid. Even though they only have 4 kills, they've still managed to create so much control for themselves.
Just look at the amount of kills you've managed to pick up inside this. QM already out 13. Twisted Mind sitting at 7. 17 Gaming being more active, jumping on the backside of what's going on with QM sitting at 4. This is where everybody is now starting to get a feel for how they were wanting to navigate the circle. It got messy up here to the north. So many people having a similar idea, but now it's going to be yet again another cluster where Twisted Minds is going to be jumped on.
They've been trying to defend for so long against so many different teams, and they've survived. They've even managed to keep up multiple members now, but Falcons spreading out on the south will try to find a knock here to open up this area for themselves.
Dude, Spiral hopping inside the car to shift over to the other side was so good. The issue is 17 Gaming was waiting on the opposing side of it. Now, are they going to line up? Are we just going to see them separate out? Looks like Falcons realizing, okay, we got what we wanted. Let's shift back into the east. 17's like, okay, we got what we wanted. West is going to be ours. Cerberus is just like, what the hell's going on to the north? And Forest is just like, just don't come in our house, man.
Cerberus, though, have even found 5 kills for themselves, as have Falcons coming in, again, from the south side, from Pachiki, getting here quite early, and now without taking too much damage, Cerberus is really starting to spread out and look for these kills as they know this is an opportunity for them to win the game. Hitmask will find Shawu, and now 17 find themselves in a much weaker position, forced to go towards the way of Falcons.
I mean, Cerberus keeps setting themselves up in positions to try to gatekeep and pick up kills.
This is what we expect from them.
They were expecting it to be moving out of Pachinki. No. It was the hillside north of Pachinki. Yep. That's where everybody was. As this is led most teams, actually all of our teams, now shifted into a very eastern lane just due to the fact of how open. There's a road that's going over there to the west, but does make the circle a lot smaller as we are going to close in, and the center point of this one is just going to be on the outside of church.
I really love what Cerberus is doing now. They're actually spreading out as 3, maybe leaving an Anka down there on the south in Tycon to just watch the church as they are now starting to hunt these kills. They know there's a few teams that are only down to 1 or 2 as they're spreading out on the west side. Center dot will be on church, Matt, and so we're going to converge up there. Well, guess what? You mentioned it earlier. Forest is just sitting there.
They haven't been able to get kills, but that's not their fault.
They haven't been able to.
They lost poorly, right? And besides, if you had these firefights going on around you and you only had 2 members, would you stick your head out of that building? I sure would.
I would maybe think about it, but that doesn't mean I would act upon those thoughts.
I would go about a couple of peeks to get some information, so that's about it. Cerberus, though, is running a 2-2. They separated out, moved over to the west, see if maybe they can get some vision on what's going on with 17. This hillside and the pathing that each one of these teams has and the options that they can work around does mean the fact that highest likelihood Falcons and the northern part of Falcons, I should say, is going to bump into 17 Gaming, but Cerberus has a very strong control area that they're playing into the south.
And the problem for Falcons and 17 is they're much closer to each other, so once that fight does start to break off, Cerberus will be chomping at the bit to make sure that they're in that area so they can pick up the kills of third party effectively. Suju will find the first knock, but Capitan will make a return.
And this is exactly what we were expecting. Falcons now have to hunker down. 17 Gaming just going to be to the north of them. Cerberus going to go and spot that one out, finish it, and now it's going to be about getting control over the dot itself.
Though.
Yeah, they just run up into this. They know exactly, okay, there's going to be somebody inside a church. There's a knock over here. Center dot is ours. You come to us.
And all of a sudden, a team that was on the bottom, 7 kills, now 4 strong, in a position to win the game. Falcons are a little bit on the back foot. The nade will find Capitan, but don't forget about Forest Gaming as a second nade will take down Draft.
You can see Falcons just trying to wing their way through this one. They've got smokes down in front of him. Amos got the bead. He sees out where Emmy's going to be. He's going to get another knock. Falcons just can't even find a way to fight their way back from this one just yet. Silson, though, with that land experience, finally coming in, gets multiple knocks. He's putting the team on his back. He's walking out trying to find it. Isaki's finally going to see him, take him down. But with this, the cost has been big. Forest now walking in. Munto spots it, and Forest gets it.
Forest Gaming gets the win. The knocks were there huge from Silson. He was able to actually trade those out, and he opened the door for Forest as a duo to take that game.
Play patient, right? That's the key to victory for them, and it worked out. Wild game there at the end of it as Cerberus, while they didn't walk away with a strong victory,
10+ kills and what was it, a second place or third? Yeah, Silson went down first, so 10 kills and a second, maybe even 11. That is dangerous because once Cerberus starts to get the momentum going, we've seen what they've been able to do in these lobbies.